Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Now, before we get started, I think I need to preface this by pointing out, yes, we are going to be delving into one of the four subjects that black folks just don't handle very well. You know what they are: politics, religion, economics, and entertainment, which includes sports, by the way. Most of it is for the sake of entertainment. Now, I know that I said I wouldn't be doing a video about Slapgate, but I think that from the number of people who have been basically dropping comments, asked for or not, there are some teachable moments about this whole thing that can be gleaned from it. Right off the bat, let me go ahead and say that I don't have a dog in this fight. I've never cared for Chris Rock, and not a fan of Will Smith either, as far as I'm concerned. Neither of these men have done really much of anything to be of help to anyone other than themselves. There's nobody to cheer for here. But there is something that went wrong, or perhaps not, depending on your perspective. Here's mine. Will Smith wasn't mad at Chris Rock. He was mad at himself. Will Smith has been emasculated by Jada. In fact, the boy's been cucked by her for a while now. And he lacks the character or the self-respect to check her or divorce her. Instead of acting like the king in media that he's supposed to be, instead he's acting like a court jester. Now, the person who he should have slapped is his son's friend who Jada was having an affair with. Hell, the first person he should have slapped should have been her. Not just for her entanglement, which she chose, but also for going on her little TV show and telling everyone that he can't satisfy her in bed, putting all of this nonsense out there. He should have slapped her for the way that she's raised their son Jaden to be. But he should slap himself for having gone from the most bankable star in the world to being an asinine joke, and not a particularly funny one. Now, let's just go ahead and come straight up the middle here. Jada Pinkett is a hood rat. Plain and simple. Oh, she may not be ghetto-level Tiffany Haddish level of trash, but a sophisticated hood rat is still a chicken head just with good grammar. Jada Pinkett's been trying to find a way to get some attention for herself and make a lane for herself since way back in the freaking 80s, no less. This woman, she figured to herself that she was a little lighter skinned than the average, so because of that, she was going to be able to get some roles, but she never could get to Halle Berry's level. She lacks height and she lacks talent to be able to do that. All she has is the ability to be a best friend, or to at least be something like a lead in some low-level shtick, but this woman is not leading woman material. And she knows it, and everybody else knows it too. And it eats her alive. As far as she's concerned, she's not going to get any better than she's gotten. So you have a woman of very low mentality, a hood rat, who happens to have all sorts of high ambitions, but she doesn't have the talent or the skill or the mentality to get any of it, and she's not terribly worried about losing anything because, well, what the hell she got other than her attitude and her delusions of grandeur? That's a dangerous person to handcuff yourself to. Now, Will is not a hood rat's partner, or at least he wasn't made to be. But I guess this is a case of assimilation by association. Will Smith has always been a follower. Quincy Jones saw that in him. He groomed Will, I would say in more ways than one, we won't discuss that any further, and it was obvious that Will had the raw materials to be a star if he got the proper seasoning. But it remained to be seen, would Will Smith play ball? Will's time on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, especially when it came time to talk about the pre-season contracts for the actors, Will Smith stuck to his contract and everybody else was on their own for theirs. The fact that he didn't attempt to become some sort of de facto labor leader on that show, that pretty much sealed the deal that Will Smith would be a company man, and he's been pretty much that for the last 30 years. By the way, I'm not trying to start up any sort of debate regarding Janet Huber. I'm simply giving the facts of what he was doing on the show. Now, Will Smith's codependence has carried over into his romantic relationships too. When he met Jada, who was not his first fling, but when he met Jada, it was pretty clear she had him wrapped around her finger for whatever reason. I guess it's an ultimately weak personality who's next to a bolder one, and he basically became very submissive. There's always been a little gossip fodder about these two having had issues over the years, but they put up a brave joint front, though it was no secret that Will wasn't exactly Jada's type. Now, she hit the jackpot when he married her, and she knew it. Her career, such as it was, and life prospects are directly tied to him. He's the star here, and everyone knows it, including her. If she wasn't Will Smith's wife, she wouldn't be able to get cast in a Geico commercial, much less the couple of TV shows and bit roles in movies that she's had. But even with all that, Jada Pinkett apparently still couldn't contain her contempt for Will Smith. He should have dumped her a long time ago, or run off with whatever side piece, female or male, that he had a fancy for. But he chose to stay with her. Amazing considering that he had all the leverage, though you couldn't tell by looking. For some dang reason, Will Smith just couldn't afford to walk away from Jada, even though she's the one who can't afford to walk away. So when he stayed, she knew that he was too weak to cut her loose, like any real man would have done. She realized that she was wearing the pants in the family and she's been throwing her weight around and he's just been submissively following her. And as the old saying goes, familiarity breeds contempt, and Jada Pinkett is very familiar with Will Smith. So what happens when someone tolerates abuse? It only gets worse. Until eventually Jada is publicly telling people that Will doesn't satisfy her in bed. It's hard to maintain a sex life with this guy, and she's publicly telling the world that she was committing adultery in their home right under his nose. Everyone called Will a cuck, and they were right. Rather than grow a spine and divorce her, he instead decided to try to put a spin on it and try to make some pathetic against all odds narrative out of this. He thought that it was a win for him not to have to admit that his marriage had failed. It's not even on life support at this point. It's just a corpse rotting out in the streets. But just because you refuse to give something a proper burial doesn't mean it's any less dead. Now, of course, the jokes have been coming on a regular basis about Will Smith's declining heft at the box office, his status as a henpecked cucked husband, his children being aspiring gender-fluid icons. The Smith family had become an international punchline, and Will himself has borne the brunt of a lot of those jokes. His failures in marriage and to rear his household, among his own personal dysfunctions, has made it where the guy is a laugh line. So, when his friend of many years, Chris Rock, made a passing comment that Jada was getting ready for G.I. Jane 2, Will Smith laughed at first, but Jada didn't. And then, out of nowhere, Will Smith seemed suddenly indignant. He walked up on stage, slapped Chris Rock in the face, returned to his seat, and then began screaming obscenities, because apparently he hadn't made a big enough fool of himself. I could see it differently if Chris Rock had been just going in on Jada all night long, or if perhaps he had made a number of multiple bald jokes in a row, or if it was in particularly poor taste, but he didn't. He gave one passing remark. And let's be clear here, Will Smith would never have done anything like that if it had been a white host. If Jon Stewart was hosting, or Steve Martin, or Ricky Gervais, or Billy Crystal, Will Smith would never have done that, and Jada wouldn't have taken any offense either. If the host had been white, neither one of them would have done a thing, and you know it. Jada Pinkett would have given her pasted little smile that she's always running around with, that insincere smirk on her face, and Will would have stayed in his seat. He wouldn't even have said any snarky remarks during his Oscar acceptance speech either. See, these Hollywood Negroes, they know what the rules are. Especially when they're hood rats. They'll go after another black person no different than gangbangers in the streets. And miss me with that bullcrap talking point that he was protecting his wife's honor. The people saying that mess, they don't even believe it themselves, but they think if they say it enough times, other people will believe it. I mean, when you got trash like Tiffany Haddish trying to throw that line around, protecting his woman, she wishes she had a man.